Welcome to the Awakened Human Podcast, the place to be for highly progressive yet extremely grounded intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for highly successful, ambitious, soul-centered visionaries and leaders like you who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment by aligning with your soul's true divine agenda and your role in God's plan of lighted creation, and by utilizing your divine gifts, talents, and abilities from the higher realms. We do this by working with the non-physical realms of higher guidance, energy, intuition, and powerful metaphysical tools for healing and transformation. We understand that the real change and transformation that's being called for on planet Earth and in our own lives and our own businesses doesn't come from outside of us, but rather from within. And that the change that we desire to experience in our lives and in our world requires us to change from the inside. I'm your host, Ann Spagna. I'm a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, intuitive, energy worker, ascension guide, multidimensional channel, animal communicator, visionary, lightworker, and luminary. I have dedicated my entire professional life to helping thousands and thousands of humans and animals all over the world in service and contribution to the light, which is the expansion, the upliftment, the evolution of humanity, to awaken, to uplift, and to align with our true divine source, which exists within each and every one of us. It is my passion, joy, and purpose to share this information, energy, and consciousness with you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing time with me. Let's get started. Well, blessings and hello, you beautiful, magnificent being. I'm here with you today for a sort of private, exclusive podcast or recording to talk a little bit about overcoming challenges and obstacles, navigating the challenges, and really overcoming adversity. And I want to share this with my most innermost community, but I will likely also add this as a bonus inside of Sacred Visionary Mentorship and may even distribute it more widely. But it's a very important, challenging topic right now because, well, if you're looking at me through video, you may see behind me, by the way, there's a lot of wind because this is the day after Hurricane Milton hit. So of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, but also just challenges on Earth because we can see that the physical reality, I mean, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's likely that you've been noticing that much of what's going on in the physical world is unraveling. And so I want to talk about overcoming obstacles and challenges and adversity and navigating the chaos on Earth. And I know that this will become more than just a one-part recording. I know there will be more to this. But before we get underway, I just want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to honor you and honor your time and honor your free will choice to be here. And thank you for participating and being here. So with that, let's get underway. Let's talk a little bit about some of the adversity. And by the way, I did a whole separate channeling, an entire different channeling. And when I say channeling, for those of you who may not know what channeling is, most of you know like Abraham Hicks, they're channeling, that's a collective. There's lots of channelers on Earth. I'm a channeler. I channel a group called the Collective, which is not always the same beings, but they all share one thing in common, and that's that they come together to serve the light and to serve God's plan in lighted creation, of lighted creation. Most of them, many of them are my unique team, but many of them are not. Archangels come and go into the group, and they're always there. And then I've ascended masters, divine goddesses, a subgroup of extraterrestrials or star family races called the Fleet. That might be a bit out there. But regardless, there's a whole separate recording that I did about the recent weather patterns, the weather pattern changes that are yet to come. I included Maui in there, and there's a part 2 that talks about the most recent hurricanes and just bringing through insight. So some of this is related to that, but also overall, we want to focus just overcoming challenges in general. I may also add a separate piece about just specifically related to business, career, work, professional, but we'll see how this goes, because as always, I just let the divine work through me and speak through me. So let's get into that. The first thing is that we have to start, and this is always free will choice. There's always free will choice. You can see it how you choose to see it. But when we're talking about challenges or navigating challenges, if the very first thing we can do is to default to, there is some higher purpose behind this, there is some higher reason that may be beyond my current perspective or my current interpretation. And in fact, that really is always the truth, because whenever some kind of challenge or obstacle or hurdle or block or difficult situation, whether it's on the collective timeline, right? The collective is something that everybody experiences in some way, shape, or form. So great example of that, COVID or lockdown or a war that could be going on, even if it's going on in another country, Israel, or, between Russia and, you don't need me to name them all, right? We could go back through time. It doesn't matter. Somewhere, when there's a collective experience, the collective is experiencing it, even if you yourself personally aren't necessarily directly personally going through that. So the things that are going on Earth right now over the past few years, especially, we're seeing an elevation of collective challenges. And then we navigate that on our personal timeline or personal trajectory in terms of how we'll interpret or experience it or how we'll perceive it. The personal perception may be your personal truth, but it might not be absolutely the highest truth. So regardless, if you're experiencing any form of challenge, regardless of whether it shows up in the collective as a collective type of experience or entirely personal as a personal experience, there's almost always a higher reason for it. And when we say higher, what we mean is something beyond the human perspective that serves some sort of purpose. And so indeed, in a lot of the channeling that has come through from the collective and from, my team, they're almost always saying, seek the higher purpose, seek the higher reason. Because if you can seek the higher purpose or the higher reason behind something, it helps elevate you out of the pain and suffering of it. Now, there's a lot of ways to seek the higher purpose, but one of them is just simply asking, and you can ask it in prayer, but you can also ask it as if you're asking the intelligence of the universe. What are the higher purposes behind this, the higher reasons? And more importantly, how is this XYZ challenge, obstacle, hurdle, how is it serving my evolution, my growth, my expansion? How is it serving me and my most benevolent best? Now you can say me or us, if it's a collective thing. How is it serving us, humanity? The moment you default to that, you are now getting out of the problem and out of the density of it. The moment you start inquiring, which again, either through prayer or simply by asking the intelligence and not attempting to answer the question yourself, allow the intelligence of the universe or the divinity that you are inquiring to or praying to provide that answer to you. It will come. It will either come through another person, a podcast, through your own divine intuition and download. And know that there can always be more too. So even if you get like one insight, you might be like, well, okay, how is that really serving? You can continue to inquire. So the moment you start defaulting to, there must be a higher reason and a higher purpose for this, somehow it's meant to serve. How is that? How is this meant to serve? And you can ask that question in lots of different ways, lots of different times, multiple times. You don't just ask it once, but you're immediately shifting yourself out of the problem and into some kind of higher perspective about it. And the moment you do that, now you start expanding, growing, elevating, and up-leveling. So first and foremost, that is my first recommendation for how to navigate challenging times. Now, I will say that with regard to these weather patterns that we've been seeing, and there's a lot of talk about whether they're man-created, technology-created, or whether it's natural, or whether it's climate change, or whether it's because of what my personal truth is, based on what I've been receiving through inquiry, is that the planet's moving in the galaxy. We're not in the same place. The whole solar system's moving. We're moving out of the quadrant where we've been in a matrix of separation, and we're being basically welcomed back into a greater part of the cosmos and the galaxy, and we're feeling the physical effects. That's only one part. And that another part of it is that, and I go into this much more in the channeled calls because this came through channeling, but that a greater part of it also has to do with the fact that there is a plan unfolding, and that part of God's plan is that humanity is beginning to reclaim our power and to no longer constantly rely on false authorities to take care of us. So we're learning how to take care of one another. We're learning how to help one another. And we're also learning to develop compassion and care for the earth, for our role here, for how we affect the earth and one another. So there is a bigger plan here to develop greater compassion and to restore our capacity to care and help for one another. That's a big plan. And ultimately, and I don't want to get too distracted here, but there's a lot more about this covered in the parts on the channeled information I did on this, which you can get, by the way. You can email and just request it. There is a fee to it. It's $111 if you want to purchase it, but it's all channeling on the weather patterns, and there's 2 parts to it. So there's a lot of bigger purpose reasons behind all of that, even with the wars that we're seeing, even with the removal of all the insanity and all the different leadership organizations, whether it's FEMA or your local government or your state government, your country's government, whatever it is. Corruption is being, or even if it's in the entertainment industry, the corruption is being weeded out. And the humans are reclaiming dominion. The meek shall recover this earth. Okay, not too distracted down that. So let's say, so we covered point number 1. Point number 2, when you're navigating difficult, challenging times, and, you're trying to determine, how to navigate those times, what I would like to invite you to is to recognize, and this is sort of part of point number 1, I guess, but to recognize that, and this has been said before, that all things are happening for you. So somehow it is meant to serve you. And this is why you default to that there is a higher reason. If you know that it's meant to serve you truly in some way, what that also means by default is that somehow or somewhere you have been somewhat not seeing the full potential that problem or challenge or difficult time is revealing to you. It's attempting in some way to show you either where you have been out of alignment with your most benevolent best, or where you have been somehow missing some kind of opportunity now, or some kind of potential within you. And this is part of what shadow work is. When we go through shadow, it's because we're missing some part of our potential or our greatest potential. By the way, if you want to hear more about that, then I would suggest you just take a look at the 3 videos I did, the 3 podcast episodes I did on shadow work. So when you start to recognize it's somehow meant to serve you, then you can start looking for that too. How is this serving me? And that ties into point number 1. Now, so those 2 are kind of go together. Now, let me give you the next one. The next one, when you're managing difficult or challenging times, is that you really need to decide that your commitment through the experience is going to be to commit to the highest, purest frequencies you possibly can. In other words, you're involved in some form of density, some kind of problem, challenge, obstacle, struggle, difficulty, whether it's relational, financial, or weather-related, or something where you might feel powerless, whatever it might be, you're riding the density of that. What do I mean by the density? Some kind of fear or worry or doubt or upset or anger or resentment or sadness or grief, we know what challenges are, right? I mean, guilt, shame, whatever it is that you're experiencing, and maybe you're not even sure what it is, you just know you're upset somehow, then you want to commit to the highest frequencies you can. What is that? Forgiveness, peace, grace, love, if you can. Maybe you can't reach so far for joy. Where's the joy in this? But you can reach for some part of, okay, how can I forgive either myself or another, or even just the situation? Where is forgiveness needed? That's always a good, or if it's not a forgiveness issue, it might not be grace. Where is God's grace in this? Or how can grace come in and alleviate this situation, this circumstance, this scenario? Because certain energies will, if let's say you have an energy of anger or resentment or grudge, right? That energy is like this, right? It's just so harsh. Well, grace will ease it. Grace will sort of chip away or release it, unwind it, unravel it, any of those denser energies. So divine grace is an excellent one to call upon and ask where and what is the grace in this. So you're choosing, you're committing to the higher path, the higher frequencies, forgiveness, grace, peace. If it's relationship dispute, maybe it might be harmony. How can we harmonize or coexist, coexistence, which coexistence isn't quite like a divine energy, but if you're working with the higher frequencies, that might be one you might call upon if it serves you. But really, you're committing to love. You're committing to peace. You're committing to grace. You're committing to some form of resolution and or solution. So you make that commitment within yourself and you recognize if there is another person or an external experience, such as a weather pattern, you might not be able to control, and you certainly don't want to try to control another person because they have free will. So that's not ever a good thing to do, but you might have no control in some circumstances of the situation, but you can commit to be the energy of the person that you want to be and of the experience you'd like to have. So if you're navigating a challenging or turbulent time, just choosing divine grace or divine peace or divine harmony or divine forgiveness or divine love, and then saying, how do I be that? How do I be that through this? And beginning to really work with that in your life, whether it's, okay, how do I forgive this person, this situation, my own self? Sometimes we even have to forgive God. I've had to go through that in part of my growth experience of having to forgive what I thought I needed to forgive God, right? Sometimes we feel betrayed or we feel abandoned. And that's part of the journey. I mean, now I don't have that issue at all anymore, but thankfully, because I worked through that. So this is what I'm saying. You're committing to love. You're committing to the higher path. You're making a commitment to be a pure frequency and to embody the virtues associated with that, whatever virtues may be needed. Again, some examples, divine peace. And I didn't mention divine gratitude. That's always a great opportunity. Gratitude is always what cuts through density and opens doors. So, if it's a weather pattern, thank God that you have a house with storm windows or whatever it may be, wherever the gratitude is. And saying gratitude is also not exactly the same thing as being the energy. So if you don't already know and haven't listened to, how I teach about utilizing energy, please do join me more and more of my events where I teach you how to use energy. It's amazing how many people really still don't fully understand that. I mean, most people don't. So most people are just starting to wake up to this. And I don't have time to go into that right now, but be aware that if you're choosing to commit to love or commit to forgiveness or commit to peace or commit to gratitude or commit to whatever frequencies and virtues are going to be the high path, that's going to help you to break free from whatever density kind of experience that you're having or challenging or difficult time. It's going to help you quicker. Okay. Third thing, and honestly, I probably should have put this first. I would say I should have put this first, is to decide to take 100% responsibility. Now, that's not very easy. I teach that all the time. I've been teaching it for years. And obviously, you cannot take responsibility for what someone else has done. You can't take responsibility for someone else's thoughts or emotions or their actions or their free will choices that they make. You cannot take responsibility for an entire weather pattern or weather storm. But when you take 100% responsibility for what you have the power to take responsibility for, you restore your personal power beyond what you can imagine. And the ability that you have to make transformational change transforms exponentially beyond what you can imagine. So by saying, I have no control over anything else, but I'm going to take 100% responsibility for myself, my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, my beliefs, my belief systems, my energy, then your power and potency to make the change for the better will be not only accelerated, but the gifts that are given to you that you're not even necessarily aware of to help and to serve as you up level will also reveal themselves to you. Sometimes it sounds a little woo-woo, but really just by saying, okay, I'm going to take 100% responsibility for my part. Years and years ago, like, maybe like, I don't know, when I was in my teens and 20s, many years ago, I was in Al-Anon for many years, and I went to a lot of the 12-step meetings. Like, I was there a few times a week and for years. And one of the things I remember learning there is this concept of clean up your side of the street. So take inventory. To clean up your side of the street means to take responsibility for yourself. Okay, now, next thing. Next step in terms of navigating difficult and challenging times that I want to offer you is the idea that you can practice radical self-love and self-care. Radical self-love and self-care. And I understand, a lot of people don't always know what that means or what that is. And I will tell you, I've been teaching a self-love and self-care class for years. It's inside of the Sacred Visionary Mentorship. And it's still growing, advancing, and evolving as I grow and advance and evolve on this topic area of self-love and self-care and self-nurturing. So if you don't know what that means, by all means, you're welcome to join us in Sacred Visionary Mentorship. You're welcome to inquire about the class. You can purchase that as a standalone class. It's outstanding. It's a game changer. But definitely it means some basic things if you don't already know. Turn everything off. Turn the outside world off. Go take some time in nature. Be still. Breathe deep breaths. Do some meditation. Do some form of exercise that feels good to you, whether it's dancing, yoga, rebounding on a trampoline, jogging, walking your dog, whatever exercise feels good for you and right for you. Do that. Not as a way to work out the body, but as a way to nurture, heal, and pay attention to yourself. Get into the habit of asking, what do I need to do right now to take care of myself and love myself through this? What do I need to do right now to honor my own journey and my own growth? And who do I need to be right now to honor my own path? What thoughts do I need to be thinking that will really help me to get through this? And you don't always have the answer in the moment. You're asking a question because you're going within and you're inquiring, and you're also recognizing that you do have a team, whether or not you're realizing it, that can help you, a team of beings in the non-physical, your own angels, guardian angels, and other beings in the non-physical, your higher self, your eternal ever being. There are aspects of your consciousness that you can tap into when you start doing it, just by asking, just by inquiring, and not expecting the answer to come immediately the moment you ask. That's when you take the time. Be still, go for the walk in the woods or in nature, go for a swim, take a long bath. It's not about specifically what you do, as long as you're doing things that are nurturing for you, that give you the space, the energetic space to unwind from whatever anxiety or stress or worry or fear or trouble or disbelief, like whatever is causing the upset or the obstacle or the challenge, so that you can start to get to point number one, which is receive the higher awareness of it, the higher reason behind it. So, okay, self-love and self-care is definitely part of it. And that's also part of committing to the higher path, right? So, number one, you're choosing to recognize there's a higher reason, and you're recognizing that behind that higher reason, there is something that is meant to serve you, and you're sort of seeking that. Number two, you are committing to the higher frequencies, recognizing that that is what's going to bring you into greater alignment. So some of those frequencies that we went over. Number three, you are taking 100% responsibility for your part in cleaning up your side of the street, which is number four. I think that's number four, am I up to? Which is a path of self-love, self-care, and self-nurturing. Okay, a couple of other pieces that I would add in here, of course, divine gratitude. Just be in the space of gratitude as best as you can to reflect and to realign yourself. What do you have to be grateful for? That's part of self-care. That's part of choosing a higher frequency. But the moment you can start seeing, like, I love the wind, and I don't want anyone to ever be hurt or harmed by weather pattern storms, of course, but I can be grateful for the wind. I can be grateful that it's in its own way cleaning the air, in its own way refreshing. It's an indication of change to me, the winds of change. So I can appreciate all that. I can appreciate different things about different weather patterns. And while we might, we still maintain that we don't want anyone to be harmed or hurt, we can go to gratitude and find the things there are to be grateful for. Water cleanses, water blesses, water bathes. I don't ever want war, but I can see that perhaps it is bringing a call to more compassion, or it's making more humans become more aware that if leaders really wanted peace, they'd have it. And maybe it's time for us to get rid of leaders who don't really do a very good job of leading. I could be grateful that people are starting to realize there's really no need for war and the people aren't wanting it. I don't think anyone wants it anymore. And yet leaders who are acting out of their own egoic structure and their own attachment to their own rightness, maybe they're not the right leaders for us anymore. Maybe there's a better way. So I can be grateful for that. I'm not saying to be arrogant. I'm just humbly grateful. Maybe something good can come out of this. Something good can always come out of things. Okay. And the last one, aside from the gratitude, the self-love, the 100% responsibility, all the ones I just listed, what I want to suggest is that if you can get yourself out of the need to be right, because I think that so many times people tend to have a lot of attachment to the need to be right. And this is an aspect of control. They're trying to control someone or the narrative or something. You can't really receive the gifts until you're out of that need to be right, especially if you're in a relationship dynamic. Be willing to embrace that there's more than any limited perspective on anything. Even these days when we're talking about conspiracy-related issues, whether weather patterns were created by technology, and that is real and can happen and has happened. But in each case, it varies, and it varies whether or not that has been done. It's not about being right. It's about elevating, evolving, advancing, progressing, moving beyond, seeing the higher picture. So letting go of the need to be right is what opens you up, in a sense, to allow more of the divinity, the greatness of whatever it is that's been happening. So, and to really get the benefits of whatever those benefits are. Okay, so I hope this has been helping. I hope this is helpful. I understand there's great challenges going on, and that's why I wanted to offer this. I could add some more too, of course. And I guess if I were to add one more, for sure, I would say to really make sure you're getting yourself loving support, really loving support from a mentor, a guide, a healer who understands that their role is to be of service and support to you, and that while they're working with you, they're there for you. And there's nothing on planet Earth right now that says you're meant to do everything alone. You're not. And that is the age we're coming out of, actually, in a sense, just doing things on your own. As we shift into the age of Aquarius, it's all about humanity coming together. So finding the loving, caring support that's right for you from a right and appropriate mentor is a game changer. It's a game changer. And I don't know, many of you have not really, sometimes you work with someone who's just a one-time healer. I did that for lots of years, but you just don't get the same benefits as you will over a long period of time. If you want real, true, profound transformation for yourself, working with someone in an ongoing, steady, repeatable way, it's what helps them to help you better too. It helps that dynamic, that relation of trust, of growth gets fostered. The dynamic of, I know for me with my Sacred Visionary Mentorship program and the people I've worked with for years, even people who come to my retreats over and over and over again, I start to really know them, and it gets easier and easier for me to be able to tap in on their behalf and to offer them solutions and to offer them insight and guidance that will really be helpful to them. And also to know sometimes if there's something they're missing, that they've been maybe struggling on it for so long. So I really, really recommend that you get yourself a really good mentor who will be with you for a extended period of time, and not somebody who just shows up for 3-minute hot seats. 3-minute hot seats are really not, in the long picture, the big picture, not that helpful unless you're working on a very microcosmic issue, like a very specific issue, like learning how to do a particular task or project or approach or marketing approach or business approach. But if you're talking about navigating your life in the absence of having somebody who's really there on your side and who really wants for your best, at least while you're in the program with them, is a game changer in life. And especially if that person is truly coming from the heart and truly does care about what's going on for you, even outside of the program. Because I've been in a lot of mentorships, and most of the time, when you hang up from the call, they're not thinking about you anymore. They're thinking about how they're going to get their next client or pay for their next meal or their life. But if you have a mentor who cares about you, even when the call is over or the class is over, I've never found anything else like that, anything not much like that out there, but I know that's what I offer. I know that's what I provide. I'll add one last, and then I'll wrap up here because I know I've been going for a while. And that is to say, always seek solution. Always seek solution. And part of solution, and I did allude to this earlier, is seeking the high road. Don't let yourself get sucked down into the muck. So often when things are going wrong or hard on earth, people tend to want you to go down into the misery with them, especially, if they have beliefs or belief systems that they have to suffer with everybody else, or that they feel guilty. They may have beliefs or belief systems, that they're wrong to be happy if someone else is unhappy. And they don't understand in that moment that your light, your upliftment is going to help others. So you're seeking solution, and by seeking solution, you're choosing the high road. You have to choose the high road before you can help anyone anyway. And the only way you're going to get yourself out of a problem really is if you start seeking a higher road, a higher path. And that includes the solution. Where are you going to find the solution? Probably not from another person. Probably not. If you have a mentor, coach, or guide, they're going to be able to help you if they're good. And ultimately, the solution is going to come from your own source, your creator, the divine, the infinite, Mother, Father, God, the Spirit, Holy Spirit, Jesus, a guide, a guardian, an ascended master, whomever you're working on, an angel. And yes, it'll come through a podcast you listen to. It'll come through a coach you work with, because the divine can use infinite ways. It'll come through an animal totem. Of course, those are ways too. But this is what I'm saying. If you're seeking solution can be offered. If you're not, if you're playing down there in the drowning pot with all the other frogs, there's no other solution that you're going to find except to be more of the problem. So always seek solution and put yourself around people who can help provide solution and uplift you. And then do your best to be uplifting in other times when you're not going through those challenging times, because there's almost always someone on earth that's in need. That's what we're here for, right? To help. Okay. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it has benefited you. And I am going to have my amazing podcast assistant. She's so wonderful. I'll have her bullet them down too as well. And yeah, please let me know how you liked it. And if it served you well, please do share it with others. Okay. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're going through, I'm always truly wishing you your most benevolent best. Okay. Until next time, farewell. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for listening today. If you loved the show and if you benefited in any way, if it helped you to up-level or expand your consciousness, if you gained any new insights or ideas, if it made you think or become more aware, or if there were some strategies or intuition that you may have benefited from in any way, would you please do me 2 easy and simple favors? First, if you would be willing to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I'd be so grateful. And second, if you're willing to share this show with anyone else who would benefit, you can either post it on your social media or just email it to someone and share it with another person or any other people. It would be so awesome. This kind of thing is so helpful in expanding consciousness on the planet and helping others to benefit from this kind of teaching, which just simply isn't generally readily available in the mainstream. So sharing it really helps others benefit and helps our planet evolve and awaken. Plus, expressing gratitude and generosity in this way will also expand your capacity to give and receive even more. Either way, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, and overall, just for being the magnificent, the spectacular, the brilliant, the fabulous, the wonderful you that you truly are, and for allowing yourself to be the very best version of you today and every day. All my love and gratitude to you.